ultimately the movie went as is on Netflix, pretty much. Except I think they took out the scene where Kip Anderson was ripping Al Gore's photo off the wall. He didn't want that. So that when it got on Netflix, then it became a bestseller pretty much. Pretty much everyone wanted to watch it, and we've done surveys of vegans, asking them how they went vegan. About, I think 25% of them, the max. The number one reason people go vegan is because they watched a documentary. And of the documentaries, the top two documentaries are Conspiracy and What the Hell. So, they are effective. Okay? And then we did a prayer for compassion, which is appealing to all religions, showing that how all religions have compassion at their core. And so it's a story that we're telling, that all religions are really united around compassion. So you can think of compassion as the spiritual core of all religions, and each religion is a different way of getting to that core. So that's the movie we did, called The Prayer for Compassion. And that we did a tour of India, promoting that documentary before we posted it on Amazon Prime. So then we did a documentary called They're Trying to Kill Us. And it is from the perspective of the African American community in the US, and how they are being deliberately misled into eating bad foods, and they are given bad foods in their neighborhoods. And their life expectancy is lower than that of the general population. So these things are facts that you can highlight in documentaries easier than telling people, So after that, we did The End of Medicine. Now, by the way, the Trying to Kill Us hasn't come out yet. We tried to distribute it through a grassroots distribution scheme, and it didn't work as well as we thought. And main houses like Netflix and Amazon didn't want it because they were scared of the title. So they're looking to recut it and maybe make it a little bit less harsh than it was. That's one problem we find. If you're trying to go through distributors like that, you have to tone down the message. Then we did The End of Medicine, which is on Amazon Prime now, which is about the end of medicine as we know it. That we cannot continue this disease model of not telling people what the root causes and letting them get sicker and sicker and then fixing them with medicine. That doesn't work anymore. It's just getting worse. So that was the main message of the movie. And what else? And then The Land of Ahimsa. The Land of Ahimsa, this is the tour that I've been on in India for the last month. And it is appealing to India to take on a leadership role in the vegan movement. Because first of all, India has Ahimsa in DNA, pretty much in our DNA. And secondly, the base food for India is already vegan, right? Roti sabji, dal chawal is fundamentally vegan. Whereas the base food for other countries is not vegan, because they went to cold climates and they had to eat meat and so on. Because we are telling the story that we are, as a species, we spread out from Africa, went throughout the world, did what we had to do, and now we are reuniting around the world as one family again. Okay, that's the story we are trying to tell in our documentaries, and that we are coming together as a species again, and we are now going to become climate healers as opposed to climate heaters. Okay, so we've heated it up enough. So returning home to who we are is also about returning home to our original cultures, the original indigenous ways of eating that we used to have, and becoming connected again with nature. So I'll stop talking now and take any questions.
Was Game Changer one of your?
Game Changers is not one of ours, one of mine at least. But I know the people who produced it, and they did a great job. Yeah, even the end of the Age of Extinction. What is that? I'm sorry. Anyway, there's another movie that I know the producers as well. And they're all about veganism. Folks Over Knives has done a lot as well to promote veganism. Earthlings has done a lot as well to promote veganism. I mean, people who watch Earthlings are shocked. The first time I watched it, I was shocked. How can we do this to animals?
There are two reactions. People who watch Earthlings are shocked. Like, I forced myself to watch Earthlings because I said I need to watch. But there are also people who walk out very soon. So it's...
Yeah. See, any change, any transformation that happens within us is about overcoming the 7 chakras. Okay? First is the fear of the change. That's the base chakra. If you're not ready for it, you'll walk out. Because you see something, you know that that's not right. That's not who you are. Yet you know you're participating in it. So but you're scared of changing. So then you walk out, right? So first is to overcome the fear of the change. That takes courage. That's why I say courage is the root of all good things that we do. Without courage, none of the good things we do happens. And this is why Lord Krishna talks to Arjuna in the Bhagavad Gita, because Arjuna represents courage. So that's the first one. Then guilt for what you have been doing all along. You have to overcome that. Then shame. Then grief. That's the 4th chakra. Then lies, delusions and attachments. So all 7 we have to overcome when we make a transformation. So I had to do that too. I'm sure you had to. I mean, all of us had to do that. So I felt incredible guilt, right, when I went vegan. Because I had this guilt that lifted off my shoulders in a week. Because I knew all along that I was doing something wrong. But I was suppressing it in the back of my mind. Because when I was a child, I had gone, because I thought I was an ethical dairy consumer, right? I was only consuming the excess milk after the calf is finished. All these stories that we tell ourselves. And I remembered that as a child, my parents had sent us all to my grandparents' home, and I overheard my grandmother tell my grandfather that this particular calf is drinking too much. He's not leaving any milk for the children. What do I do? And my grandfather told my grandmother, don't let him drink to his fill. Pull him away after 10 minutes. And as a child I knew there was something wrong going on. But I tried to put it away in the back of my mind. I never did. So that was the guilt I had. And then, like the first time I saw the forest and what was happening, how the old cows were eating anything new that was growing on the ground. And I realized that as an ethical vegetarian, I was having 4 to 8 times the impact as one who wasn't ethical. I had this sense of shame. Okay, I felt shame because that's a simple calculation that any engineer, any systems engineer should have done. Yeah. And that was my profession, right? And I didn't do it for what? 20 years after I learned engineering. So I felt shame about that. So I went through shame, guilt, grief, of course, and of course the lies that I was telling myself, and the delusions, the lies that other people are telling me that I couldn't see through. And finally is the attachment. I thought, how can I live without my cheese pizza? how can I live without my peda? And pretty soon I realized I could do it, you know. So in my case, at least, the addiction was not that strong. So I tell people that please be open-minded when you watch documentaries or anything, right? Please be open-minded and let the negative emotions come in and see what emotions you have. Because the negative emotions are the only way you're going to change. No one changes when they're feeling comfortable. So it's discomfort that's the root of all transformation.
You mentioned about wood fire. And what is the alternative to wood fire? For cooking.
Oh.
Wood fire.
Yeah, the wood fire is toxic, right? So
what is the alternative?
So what we did there was we found that when they make their stoves, they actually put the wood right on the floor and they cook. And as they cook longer and longer, there's more and more ash building up, and the wood is now sitting on the ash. So that's why they had so much smoke, and they were using a lot of wood. So we gave them a grate to put on the floor of their cook stove, so that the wood goes on the grate as opposed to on the floor. And suddenly they were actually using 40% of the wood that they were using before. The wood use dropped by 60%, and their smoke dropped by 80%, something like that. That was the best solution we could come up with for them, because otherwise, people are saying, let's get gas stoves to them. But then, for gas stoves, they said you have to get the gas cylinders, and you have to go to the city to get the gas cylinders. I'm not going to do that. And we have to pay for the gas cylinders. I'm not going to do that. So all these objections that came up for gas. Right?
How long ago was this?
This was about 10 years ago.
10 years ago.
Yeah.
Did you go back again to check whether there's any change in the mortality lifespan?
No, we haven't done that study yet. Yeah, that was done by Professor out of the University of St. Louis, who's now in Boston University actually. Gautam Yadav, he did that study. I can ask him to go back and see.
Are you going to show any of your documentary?
Right now?
Yeah, today or?
I wasn't planning on it. Would you like to see one?
Of course, I'm going to.
Aren't you showing End of Medicine?
Yeah, I mean, in this there are lots of documentaries being shown. Conspiracy is being shown. The End of Medicine is being shown, but it's in the theater.
No, here. Are you going?
Here, no, not in this session, no. Yeah. We also did a documentary called Animals: A Parallel History. It's just documenting how animals have helped us over the last 10,000 years. Because I see this as a joint project that we did with the animals. We heated the climate together. We heated the climate on their backs, actually. Right? And now we have to release them and heal the climate, heal ourselves, free ourselves too, because we are also, I call it, heating is HEAT, I call it human earth animal torture. That's what we've been doing. We've been torturing the earth, we've been torturing animals, we've been torturing ourselves. And heal is human earth animal liberation. So that requires us to actually liberate the earth as well. No more ownership. This is mine, that's yours. And then we govern to protect those rights, right? That's what we're doing now.
So what's the name of the documentary again?
Animals: A Parallel History. And then there was a documentary done about our work called, mostly about our work, it's called Countdown to Year Zero. Which talks about the Pinky Promise and how we are planning to get to a vegan world by 2026.
By any chance that we can access to all these documentaries? It's all on the Prime or?
Some of them are on, they're on different platforms. So we also did Milked, which is on YouTube.
Oh,
Milked. Yeah.
Which one is on YouTube?
Milked, which is a documentary from New Zealand about the milk industry, dairy industry. So showing Maa Ka Doodh right now, which is about India.
Seaspiracy.
Seaspiracy was completely funded by Netflix. Yeah. And I think
Seaspiracy was funded by Netflix?
yeah, it's a Netflix documentary. It's a Netflix original. Unusual, no?
Great, it's great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Was produced by Lucy Tabrizi and Ali Tabrizi.
Right.
I think they directed it, I guess.
Yeah, Ali Tabrizi is the director. Yeah. And but it's a Netflix original. That's the way they call it, which means they funded it. So they didn't ask us for any. They didn't look for executive producers outside.
Yesterday in Maa Ka Doodh, when I was seeing that documentary, the presenter of who presented for SCOAN,
They probably can't hear you in the back. Huh?
the person who was speaking on behalf of SCOAN was quite negligent and quite ignorant about the milk that they are taking from outside.
Mm-hmm.
And the milk that they use for the feast and sweets.
Right.
How have you seen the spiritual organization addressing this thing? Because veganism, I don't know, because being vegetarian, they consume more milk,
Mm-hmm.
and they are quite ignorant about how the milk is coming and all.
Right. So India is a country that has one of the highest per capita consumptions of dairy and one of the lowest per capita consumption of meat. Okay, this is why I say India has ahimsa in her DNA, because people are thinking that they are not hurting the animal as much by just consuming dairy. They're just milking the cow, not much, right? So when they discover that dairy is actually the worst, the cruelest, the most impactful consumption that he could be doing from the environmental perspective, they are shocked. So this is why I think approaching ISKCON and religious organizations like that and showing them this and will help them immediately wake up. I really think it can happen, okay? And then showing them that, the stories they have about milk builds these fine structures in the brain and all these things that they tell themselves. And also that milk is nectar. Milk is Krishna's food. Right? Krishna Krishna loved butter. That story. So those things and all we have to address from a symbolic perspective. Because I think right now milk is highly contaminated. No matter whose milk you take, it is the environment has been polluted, okay? And it's going to take a few decades for it to clean up, because these are all cumulative toxins. They don't go away; they stay there. And so every year we've been adding 250 billion tons. Think about that. We add only 50 billion tons of CO2 to the atmosphere. And that's causing climate change, and we are screaming about it. We are actually pouring 250 billion tons of chemicals into the environment. And don't tell me that's harmless. Yeah? If CO2 is causing so much climate change, this is killing wildlife. This is why I look at biodiversity loss as the leading indicator of all the things that we're doing. Because biodiversity is being hit from every side. It's dying. So we have to tell these religious organizations, look, life is dying around us. Isn't it our duty to protect life? Isn't it our responsibility to protect life? And so should we be looking for excuses to continue doing what we're doing, or should we look at the data and say we need to transform, we need to change now? And so let's promote the symbolic interpretation of Krishna's stories. See, Krishna lifted a mountain with his little finger. I don't see ISKCON doing that. I don't see ISKCON people wanting to go lift mountains with their little fingers. They don't do that because they know it's symbolic. That means that if you have faith in Krishna, he will shelter you from the trials, from the thunderstorms of life. Right? And Krishna danced on the hood of a seven-headed snake, which means that he overcame the 7 chakras. He opened the 7 chakras. He is enlightened. This is why he's playing a flute, dancing on the hood of a 7-headed snake. So that's fear, guilt, shame, grief, lies, delusions, attachments. That's what he opened up. That's what he overcame. And so he's enlightened. So we take that symbolically as well. No one is looking for a 7-headed snake and dancing on it. Just because Krishna loves butter, now we go eat butter. Right? And why does Krishna love butter? Well, Krishna loves the mind of a devotee. That's what it means. Milk is the fluid mind that has doubts about God, to which you add curd, which is the thought of God, and let it curdle, and then you churn it, you get butter, which is the solid mind that has no more doubts about God. It's the mind of a devotee. And Krishna loves the mind of a devotee.
There are few ashrams in India and few gurus who are running few gosala, where they have male Nandi also protected very safely, respectfully, and they are also producing lots of milk. What do you say about that kind of milk?
That's the kind of milk that I wanted to consume before I went vegan. Okay, that's the milk I thought I was consuming. Then I calculated, if I want the cow to live out her entire life, she lives for 25 years. Normally the cow gets killed at the age of 6. Which means for the same amount of milk, I would need 4 times as many cows. Okay. Then I said, well, if I want the male calves to also live for their entire lives, then for the same amount of milk, I need 8 times as many cows. Right? Then if I want the calf to drink half the milk and the other half to be used for human consumption, then for the same amount of milk, I would need 16 times as many cows. So I went vegan on the spot when I made this calculation. I can't have 16 times as many cows for the same amount of milk. See, what I'm pointing out is that when you're kind to the cow, you're actually being unkind to the ecosystem. You're being kind to the cow and you want to exploit the cow for your purposes. Then for the same amount of milk that you want, you will be very, very unkind to the ecosystems, to the tiger and the deer. So if you're feeding the cow so much, there's nothing for the deer to eat. The deer dies. When the deer dies, the tiger dies. So as I said, this current climate heating civilization is founded on hunger. Hunger not just for 1 billion human beings, but also for wild animals. They are dying of hunger. Right? When the population declines, it's because they're either hungry or they're being shot to death or being killed by a predator. But the herbivores are dying of hunger. They have nothing to eat.
Is there any documentary on milk and religious activities so far? Because I have been going to ISKCON for a long, long time. Every time I tell them, please don't use milk. And they now shun me. Every time I go there, they say, the place coming, please don't talk about milk.
Yeah.
But ISKCON has changed in many countries.
Right.
So they are getting
exactly.
it. Yes.
Because I have been to ISKCON center in Sweden, Gothenburg, and the guys who are running that ISKCON center, they were vegan.
Yeah.
And they were all ISKCON devotees.
Yeah.
So people in Europe especially are more aware.
Yes. Because there was a conference in Europe regarding this by the ISKCON people. And the results were divided. I mean, there were some who did not want to use milk and others wanted to use milk. And they were from the south and south.
Right. So we have to give them alternatives. So I offer alternatives to this story, the same symbolism. Okay? So in the Bhagavad Gita, Lord Krishna says, give me a leaf, a flower, a fruit, or some water, and I'll accept it. Yeah. Right. So, and we do that in our pujas in the south. We offer a leaf. My mom used to do that, every week. She used to go do this. She would offer a leaf, she would offer flowers, she would offer a fruit, and then she would break a coconut. So the leaf is our body, the flower represents our mind thinking of God, and the fruit represents our soul. So we are offering our body, mind and soul to God, and we are breaking our ego, which is the coconut. And out spills coconut water, which is the fluid mind that has doubts about God. And what is left is the coconut fruit, which is the solid mind that has no more doubts about God, which is the mind of a devotee. So Krishna ought to love coconuts. Now if you refine that butter, you get ghee, right? Which is what we use for aratis. That's the enlightened mind. Right? So when we put ghee in our arati, we are saying, signifying enlightenment. But currently if you use ghee in your arati, you are offering dioxins to Krishna. Which is not what you want to do. So the truly enlightened devotee should be offering coconut oil in the arati. Because that coconut is as pure as it can be. As I told you, when water is sucked up by trees, they filter it. So the coconut tree is very, very tall. So as the water gets sucked up from the roots to the coconut, it's as pure as it can be by the time it reaches the coconut.
So coconut oil doesn't have toxin?
It's not as toxic as, ghee. You can measure it.
Does have some toxin?
Some will get through, yeah? Because we are pouring 250 billion tons, another 250 billion tons, another 250 billion tons. Year after year after year. Relentlessly.
The priests all over South India, they bathe the deities with milk.
I know.
And the whole drain is white every morning.
Right. They should be bathing the deities with either coconut water or coconut. Coconut water has the same significance. Because why are you bathing the deities with milk? Because you're saying, take away my fluid mind. Yes.
I have a question related to media and film. So I come from Pakistan, where we do have executive producers and producers, but none of them are interested in funding documentaries, especially for veganism or vegan outreach. So where should such people go to, and who should they apply to for funding?
Yeah. Well, we all go to the same well. So, if you have a treatment that you want to send me, I'll take a look at it and just let you know who I can connect you with. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay. We've all been saying that things are not looking good, but our lifespan is increasing. So, what's the reason for that? We're saying we're taking toxic food, we're doing this, we're doing that. It's all negative.
Right.
But still our lifespan is increasing. So there must be a reason for that as well.
Yeah. Your lifespan is increasing. The lifespan of animals are not increasing. Lifespan of domestic animals are also not increasing. They're being chopped up earlier and earlier. So we are extracting from them and saying we want to live longer, right? And our lifespan is increasing, but you're being, kind of the last 10 years of your life, most people whose lifespan is increasing are barely making it, right? So,
Quality of life.
You know what I mean? The quality of life is awful. So, this is why, we have to look at it holistically.
Yeah.
I say that health, your health is, you cannot be an island of health in an ocean of sickness, right? So, we have to take care of all life and make sure that all life thrives if you want to thrive. Yeah.
Do you think because of the medicine kind of available, that's why the life expectancy is going up?
medicines, procedures, they can pretty much keep anyone ticking.
Yes.
That doesn't mean you're really alive.
But don't you think that also we are out of balance, and therefore it's not okay to increase the human population indefinitely?
No, absolutely, you're right. See, if you look at what we have done from 10,000 years ago to today, 10,000 years ago it was a very biodiverse planet, and wild animal populations, the total weight was 200 million tons, and ours was a tiny little bit on top of that. And so we have then taken the biodiversity and turned that into a monoculture of humans and domestic animals. That's the biomass we have. And even the trees, we have cut most of the trees, and we are creating monocultures of timber everywhere. Right? A lot of monocultures of timber everywhere. And we call that forest actually in official numbers. So the original forests are shrunk to a small portion of what used to be there. Which is why biodiversity loss is going down so fast that I'm saying we're going to hit 100% in 2026. Or virtually 100% by 2026. And it will be hard for us to recover if we go back. So it is time to say that monocultures should stop. Okay, and ideally, you want to reduce the human population also, but first reduce the domestic animal population, for heaven's sake, because they are eating 5 times as much food as we eat. Okay, so they're presenting a biomass profile that's 5 times the biomass of humans. Humans alone are 500 million tons now. So our weight is 2.5 times the weight of all the wild animals that lived 10,000 years ago.
And maybe it has to be done simultaneously because humans are increasing the livestock.
Right, but if humans go vegan, you get to live. If humans don't go vegan, a lot of us are going to die. Right? So that's the equation. So and some people I know are saying, let it go and let lots of humans die, and then we will go vegan. Are you sure that there will be a planet for you to do that in? Because if we heat it up to a point where a lot of these positive feedback loops have been triggered, you will hit a point of no return. For instance, if the Arctic ice melts in summer, okay, you will suddenly double the heating that we are doing on the planet. Because the ice is now reflecting sunlight. And so if the ice disappears, and then the dark water is going to absorb sunlight. And that's not something we want to try out and see what happens. Let's double the heating and see what happens. You already know what you're doing. That it's causing all these extreme events.
And yet Chief Seattle predicted that until the last fish is fished and the last...
He was being sarcastic. He was saying, come on guys, you can't eat money.
Yeah.
You can't eat money. He was trying to get the settlers to understand that that's the true wealth. Nature is the true wealth, not numbers in the bank account or pieces of paper. How much time do we have? Yeah. Any other questions? Yeah.
How about we look at things like diving, snorkeling, and sea activities in terms of tourism perspective? Because recently I went for snorkeling, and I have no idea. When I asked my vegan friends, should vegan go or not? I get very mixed kind of answers, so I just go and experience, and it's quite sad to see a lot of corals are died and stuff.
Right.
And I have a strong feeling this happened is because of this tourism is happening. And as a vegan, how do we take our stand on this and educate the public? And
Well, that's again through documentaries, right? So you have to educate the public. We're trying to do it through documentaries, through stories. You can tell. Fictional stories also help, right? I got my Cinderella principles through the Cinderella movie I watched. Okay? And so you can convey messages through this. The trouble with all these like underwater destruction is that people don't see it directly.
Yeah.
So you
But
have to.
how about people already seen that and they're still going back for the same activity because they enjoy doing it, right? So
Yeah, that comes down to the false axiom I said of consumerism, which is that we think that happiness comes from outside. As long as you believe that, you will be demanding an infinite amount of stuff from the outside. And that's why this current civilization is driving us down the drain. So its foundations are wrong. Okay? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Closer to your mouth.
Hello, hello,
Closer to your mouth.
hello. I would like to ask that how much of carbon footprinting of human being is playing part in the climate change? How much? Why I'm asking is, when I was coming here, people were asking, well, where are you going? And we explained that we're going for a vegan festival and also about discussing about the climate change and everything. And straight away we were asked that while you are going there, you are flying there and you are adding to your carbon footprint. So what can we do about that?
Yeah, you have to think about every act that you do. You have to think and ask yourself, is it worth it to do this? So, I took one flight from the US to India, and then we went around India and then came to Nepal. Because I felt that trip and trying to influence thousands of people, I'll meet thousands of people, and I did meet thousands of people and try to tell them the story. But at the same time, we have to be cognizant of how we behave. Like today, I was looking at the room that I'm staying in and saying how many trees got killed for this room. There was so much wood around. So, and we have to start thinking about these things and being more mindful. So be mindful and have the right intention. Your intention is to go and help create a vegan world. Please come. I don't want you to stay back. And because there is urgent work to be done together.
Thank you very much, because I did feel a little bit guilty about that coming.
Let that go. Do the best you can. There's no other answer.
Agree with you. Now go out there and make me do it. Can't do it on his own. You can't come. All those top-down changes come from a massive bottom-up demand that those changes be made. And in order for that to happen, I wanted Dr. Rao, if he could explain a little bit about the power of exponential progression, of geometric as opposed to arithmetic progress. That what looks impossible now, 40% of the rainforest is gone, a third of Pakistan is underwater, you got tens of millions of climate refugees in Bangladesh and other parts of the world. It's just hopeless. If you look at it carefully, it just seems beyond the pale of most of us as individuals. Most of us as individuals can't possibly make a meaningful difference. But if you understand the power of exponential progression, if you understand the power, kind of like the 100th monkey concept, well, then maybe, we don't know, but maybe it's possible. And if it's possible, there's no other choice but to jump in with both feet and do whatever you can under whatever circumstances you're in to get it done.
I absolutely agree with you. And every one of us in this civilization has been trained to be a climate heater. So we heat the climate. Because it turns out that everything we do impacts the climate, whether we like it or not. Everything we do impacts the climate. So, for the most part, we take more than we give to the planet. And this is why the planet is diminishing, depleting year after year. So, we have to now help people become climate healers. And how do you do that? Well, you have to routinely give more than you take from the planet. Going vegan is just the first step in that. Okay? Because
just the first step.
In the first step, basically you're saying, now I recognize that I can reduce my footprint by an order of magnitude by just changing to a vegan diet. But then you minimize your consumption. So that's how you take as little as you need and then give as much as you can. You also have to work on the other side. You have to start cleaning up the ocean, cleaning up the land. You have to start planting trees. So basically you have to be a net contributor in terms of climate than what you're taking from the climate. This is how we become climate healers. And so if every one of us aspires to be climate healers, then you will create that sea change from the bottom up. Right? So we have to teach our children, you can be a climate heater or a climate healer. If you do this, you're a climate heater. If you do this, you're healing the climate. So planting trees and nurturing them, bringing back the forest that we cut. See, overall, why is the climate the way it is? Because we have cut half the trees on the planet. Number one. Okay? Fossil fuels are in addition to that. We cut half the trees on the planet. The planet used to have 6 trillion trees, now it has 3 trillion trees. And so, now we have a chance. If we restore those 3 trillion trees that we cut, then we can reduce the temperature and keep it at the temperature level that was there 200 years ago. And the earth will not go back to the ice age because all the fossil fuel carbon we put into the atmosphere will keep it above glaciation threshold. So we have done something absolutely amazing as a species. Okay, we can pat ourselves on the back. We prevented the earth from ever going back to the ice age. Our ancestors did that. They actually kept the temperature constant for 10,000 years. That allowed us to do agriculture. Without that, there would be no agriculture. And that allowed us to grow and multiply and then actually increase the temperature of the planet by 1.2 degrees Celsius. So that we understand how powerful we are as a species. Now we are at this juncture where we have to sort of reap the fruits of all the work that our ancestors did. If we start healing the climate on time, within the next 4 years, as I said, and I also told you how to do it, which is to feed everybody healthy food for free. Okay? Take care of everybody as if they are your family. And everyone can bring their gifts to do that. You have lots of money in the bank, bring it. Okay? You know how to tell the story, bring it. And then let's create this movement that helps everyone, feeds everyone healthy food for free. And if you do that, we will start healing the climate. The temperature will start coming down, the CO2 levels will start coming down. Because until it starts coming down, you haven't done anything. The house is still on fire, right? It's only going to it's getting worse and worse and worse. So, think about what all our governments are talking about. If they say we are going to get to net zero by a certain date, say 2050, net zero, what does that mean? It means you stop adding more to the atmosphere by 2050. Until then, you're going to keep adding more, which means you're heating up the climate. So you will stop heating the climate by 2050. When will you start healing? Maybe then. So this is why I'm saying, we need to understand the data and then devise our solutions based on the data. And that's what I'm going to be talking about at 3 o'clock.
Could you spend 1 minute on the concept of geometric progression, why we should have hope, since mostly it's negative, going back for centuries? How can we possibly overcome that negativity in time?
Absolutely. You know, I mean, if you look at the projections, everything we do goes through nonlinear phase transitions. Everything, in fact, history is a chronicle of all the nonlinear phase transitions in human history. Something happened and we are in a different state. And that's what we note down the date for that. Okay? That's what we do in history books. And until then, people thought whatever was happening will keep happening forever. And that's not how it works. The instant flips that can happen, positive changes happen very, very fast too. You know, like the gay marriage. I remember 2005 when gay marriage was being debated in California, and a friend of mine said, you know, you believe what they're doing in San Francisco? Men are getting married to men. How awful that is. I'm glad that the Supreme Court stopped it. And within 10 years it was the law of the land. That was a massive cultural transformation that happened, right? So we have made changes like this throughout history.